Okay, I've hit the record button and it's recording. And so we're going to talk today about you and my sensei and coaching and mentoring. But I want to start with, if you could tell me how you got interested in ballet, how you started. Was it something you wanted to do, or was it something your parents wanted you to do? How did your life in dance begin?
Well, it's funny because no one knows like where I got this crazy idea to like become a ballerina. And at 2 years old, I just basically told my parents that, hi, I'm going to be a ballerina. And that's just what we're doing. And they were like, okay, I guess that's fine. But every little girl basically wants to be a ballerina. So they just were like, sure, sweetheart, we'll do that. But I was very stubborn, like even from a young age. And they wouldn't take a 2-year-old in ballet class. So the deal was we would wait till I was 3. But on my 3rd birthday, I was like, so where are the lessons? Like, what school are we going to? And my parents were like, we didn't really call yet. And I got so mad at them, like, for not like taking me more seriously, I guess. So that was kind of how it started. And like, it was just weird. It was like an internal, I guess, knowledge or just like obsession. I was just infatuated with ballet from a very young age.
So you're still passionate about it.
Yeah, but yeah, pretty much.
Was there a teacher or a mentor, someone that you worked with that was particularly inspiring and helpful to you?
Yes, I would say I've had like a mentor for kind of every phase of my career. I think when things started to get really serious, obviously when I was 3, it wasn't as serious. Though I was serious, the training was like local, ballet schools and stuff like that. But that all changed when I was 14 and I met my first teacher. Her name is Nadia Pavlenko, and she and her husband had a school in my local Pennsylvanian hometown. So I'd been like talented, I get like I had some like natural inklings for ballet, I guess, but I wasn't really like well trained or trained in a proper technique. So when I met Nadia, the first thing that her and her husband told me when I took the audition class at their school was that I danced like a monkey. First thing, they were like, oh my gosh, she dances like a monkey. And I'm like, oh no, this is not good. Like, I have a lot of work to do. And it was the first time that I had understood, like, okay, there's a real proper technique involved when training a student. It's not just like you go through the motions. There was a whole system that I was like unaware of until I met Nadia. And she like started me from the ground up. She's like, forget everything that you think you know and we're going to start over. But at 14, that's late, and I had to do what in the Vaganova system, it's 8 years. So I only had 4. And I had to like learn as much as I could in those 4 years with her. And she was so patient. And I was difficult because I was stubborn and I wanted everything right away, and she kind of forced me to slow down, slow and steady, and break things apart. So I think she's one of the best teachers I've ever met just because she's so detailed. Like, it's amazing how she got me to not just execute steps, but like understand why I was executing the way that I needed to. So it was more of a she armed me not just with like physical prowess. She helped me gain mental clarity and understanding behind movement and behind technique. And I think that was a real gift because with my unconventional type start, I had to make that decision to like leave public school and become homeschooled. And when I was 16, my training went from being just 3 hours a night to 6 hours a day. And that 11 to 5 was one-on-one with Nadia. So there was nobody in the room. I was trained privately. And I think that might be why my sensei resonates with me so much, is because I feel like had I not had that small town, private, really good quality training, I don't think I would be where I am today.
Would you say you faced some of your greater challenges during that time, or did they come later in your experience?
Oh, I was challenged at every phase. I mean, it's like there has always been challenge. I think that during that time as a student, I think that was particularly challenging in the sense that I was working towards the unknown. So I'm from this small town. I'm driving my little car to the studio every single day. I've left public school. I have no plan B, right? Because I'm not going to college. I didn't take the SATs. Like I put all my eggs in one basket, so to speak. And I remember feeling every day driving to the studio, like, what if this doesn't work? What if I can't get a job? What if I'm just not good enough? Or what if this isn't for me? Even though I wanted it so badly, and I wanted it at a very high level. I wanted to be as good as I could be, and I wasn't going to settle. And I think that when you have to work blindly and not know how or what, I mean, I wasn't part of a school like, that's going to be attached to a company where I'm visible and in front of directors and in front of other professionals. Like, I was alone. And I feel like that's kind of like what's happening during coronavirus time. It's like you're alone, and that's scary. And you don't know what's on the other end of this, and you don't know what's going to happen. But it was that passion and that love, and like, you know what, no matter what gets thrown in my way, I'm going to do this, period. There was I wasn't going to turn away from it.
What do you think of online coaching, online teaching? How you've been teaching classes? How's it been going for you? Do you find it easy?
I mean, honestly, I have to say that it definitely depends on the platform. I really personally feel that Instagram is a wonderful way to connect and to engage, but I really feel like the one-on-one or smaller classes through Zoom, especially for students with selected teachers, is absolutely the way to go. Because, sometimes less is more, especially with dance, and focus and intention and direction is everything for a growing dancer. So we now have all of this access. We have access to teachers who we normally wouldn't. We have access to, watching ballets we normally couldn't see. So there's so much information out there. And now I think the next phase will be filtering that information to become really useful per dancer. You know what I mean? So like what might be good for somebody else might not be for you. And distinguishing between what works for you is so important. When it comes to teaching online, I love teaching on Zoom, especially working like one-on-one or with a few people. I love getting to, no pun intended, like zoom in, so to speak, on individual dancers, where in a big class, in a big space, and there's a lot of distractions, I might not have that opportunity. And I feel like I also have a responsibility not just to coach them physically, but also to give them mental tools to handle this time. Because I feel like the saddest thing in the world would be not to prepare this next generation mentally for what's to come. And we can't prepare them like we prepared before. It's a whole new world, and we need to create braver, more courageous, more pushing the limit type dancers who are not afraid, or who are afraid but do it anyway. And I feel like we can only do that when we really connect and get to know and have time. You know, that through ballet we're also coaching people, kids. You know, you're not just a dancer, you're a whole person with feelings and emotions and fears and all of these things. And it's really important that your coaching is individualized for you. Otherwise we might lose people who really have so much to offer.
Do you have any tips that you can tell me about now about like what you're doing to stay in shape or to stay committed to to everything you do go through to stay in shape and keep active? And
Yeah, so you know, ballet class is an absolute must every day. And um, a full ballet class. So I do the jumps, even if the floor is a little hard. I put a yoga mat down, or I, you know, wear sneakers, something. But the stamina and the cardio that comes from a full ballet class, and I've been trying to select classes that, you know, kind of also bring me back to my Vaganova roots. So teachers who give like really difficult, long combinations that are going to challenge my stamina and abilities. That's kind of what I'm doing now. And it's been an interesting process of discovering, like, okay, well, what do I really need? You know, what do I as an artist need? Now, the other piece of my everyday, it's like I teach a lot in the morning, and then in between the classes, I'm doing my own class. I do point work every day, just, you know, to keep the articulation in my feet. And then I usually do cross training. So usually a Pilates or an ab workout is the best for me. So I do that. Yeah, that's basically what I've been up to. I do try to also review certain variations that I love, or things that are happening in the coming years. So Swan Lake, right? So the thing with Swan Lake is that I think as dancers, we're not so creative. Sometimes we get stuck feeling like, well, if I can't do the whole variation, like, then I'm not going to work on it. But the reality is, like, there are so many details in the arms. There are so many details in the expression, in the transitions. So you don't need all this space to still make progress in small ways. And I'm hoping that if I can focus on smaller things right now in my smaller space, you know, like the use of my coordination or my arms, finding things that are more difficult for me and really like going after them in finer exercises, or just repeating the arms of a variation, it's keeping my fire alive, because I feel like I still have something to look forward to, and like I feel like a dancer needs a goal. And I'm somebody who, when I don't have a goal in front of me, even if it's far out, I don't care how far away it is. It's just I love giving my mind something to be like, that's where we're going. And I just take every little baby step that I can every day to get there. And sometimes that baby step is resting on Sunday, because that's important too, or going on a walk with my dog, because that's important too, and spending time with my family, because that leads to the goal. It's just having that purpose, that mental purpose, is so valuable, and it keeps me excited, because it should be exciting. I mean, we have all this like terrible things happening, but we're gonna be okay, hopefully, you know. And I refuse to like lose hope on that. And I feel like working with kids or younger dancers, so to speak, because I'm not that much older than them a lot of the time, which is a little weird too. But working with these younger aspiring dancers and seeing that like little flame in their eyes that's what it should be. And it doesn't have to change. Or it can change, but it doesn't have to go away.
Now, I know you've been teaching ballet class at Washington Ballet, and what do you think, if we ask your students, what do you think they would say about you as a teacher?
I think, I don't know. I mean, so I usually teach level 6, and I would typically teach them like a Thursday evening. This summer, though, I have been doing a unique class for the Washington School of Ballet called mentoring class. And in mentoring class, I have 5 girls or 5 boys, and we have 45 minutes every day together. So I get to go through like every student in the level, which is awesome. And, you know, we get to talk about improving our turnout, and I can give them exercises for that, and, you know, working on our coordination, and maybe teaching them a little bit of a variation and going through the style of it and why that speaks to an audience, kind of breaking things down for them. And that's been such a unique experience because I've never had a mentoring class, to the point where I was like, what am I supposed to give in this? Like, I don't know what this even means, right? But I think they would say that I'm pretty honest with them. Like, I'm not really one of those teachers who's good at like standing in the front of the room and like pretending like I have it all figured out myself, because I don't. So I feel like I'm pretty like open with my students that like, hi, I struggle with that too. You're not alone. It's not easy. It doesn't get easier, you know? And kind of letting them know like, your fears and worries, like I have felt that and I still feel that. And your insecurities about your body, I have felt that and I still feel that. So I try to be somebody who's relatable, you know, and not put on this show like, yeah, I have it all together, because that's not true. So I try to be pretty open with them about where I'm at, and hoping that that honesty gives them courage to also keep going, because I love sincerity in people, and I try to be that for my students, that I'm not putting on a show for you. You know, this is me unplugged, my buns off, and my tutus, you know, in storage. So here's me, you know, telling you that you can do this, because I did it and I didn't think I could. So
Did you ever have times where you thought you would just like give up?
all the time.
Really?
I mean, especially, so I had Nadia growing up as my teacher, like when I was a student. And then after those 4 years with her, I turned 18 and I went to Manila and became a principal dancer at 18, because Lisa Makuha Elizalde, who's also now on my sensei, which is amazing, because it's like, I don't even feel like worthy to really be there. That's my teacher, you know. So, but Lisa was a prima ballerina. She's a soloist at the Kirov, the Mariinsky in Russia, and just like an incredible artist, human, director, and became my very, very, very close mentor while I was in the Philippines. And, you know, taught me every role from Giselle to Don Q to Swan Lake and Sleeping Beauty. I mean, I remember she coached me for 6 months on Giselle before my debut. I was 19 when I debuted Giselle, and she coached me for 6 months. It was crazy. But she was also somebody who, like, I had my student training, but then Lisa really gave me that, like, ballerina training of, no, you know, this is how you need to hold your body when you do Giselle, or this is the effectiveness of, here's how you balance for 8 counts. Like, that was all Lisa all the time. Just giving me these, she was very mental, Lisa. Like, she got in my head and coached me through 2 silver medals, Jackson and Varna. That was Lisa. And I didn't want to go to those competitions because I had a bad experience at another competition, and I was like, no way, I'm not going. But Lisa believed in me. And that's the amazing thing about having positive mentors who can see that you're capable of it even when you feel like you're not. Because I really didn't think I was gonna do well. But Lisa gave me that confidence, like, just focus on the work, focus on what you have to do. She would give me like mental imagery, and here's where you should focus your eyes, and if this happens, here's your backup. Like, just the most intelligent coaching. So that was what I gained from working with Lisa in the Philippines. And now I have Julie. Who's like, I feel like she just we really connect, Julie and I, when we're in the studio together. And I feel like she is just kind of polishing every detail that I have to execute, whether it's the angle of my body or the facial expression, or really diving into a character and story and speed. I got all of that from Julie. So I just can't stress enough how important it is to have people in your corner. And I've had so many strong, fierce, empowered women in my corner, helping me, guiding me, believing in me. Because very often I didn't. And I still have that problem, that I am very much of a perfectionist, to the point where it can get paralyzingly analytical, where I just get way too much in my head. And that's a very common occurrence in my process, especially leading up to a big competition, or now, if it's a big debut. About like the 2 weeks before, even Sleeping Beauty, I was like doubting every step. Like, am I even capable of this? I don't know. And I don't know if that's just, I think that's just how I'm wired, that I need some kind of, like in a movie, I guess, where it's like gets really difficult before it gets better. And that's kind of always been my process. But had I not had guidance and strong women in my life who guided me every step of the way and really gave me tools, not just to become a better dancer, but to become a more empowered person. And like, when I do feel not confident, they've given me tools and lessons to overcome that. So it doesn't paralyze me anymore. So I can work through it. And that's been invaluable.
Do you think there's anything you wish you had known, like when you were younger, that you know now? That's such an obvious question, though. I guess it's been a process for you.
No, it's amazing, because I feel like there's one thing I wish I knew when I was a student, was that I didn't need to be perfect to make it. And I feel like I had that mindset that I had to be flawless to be liked or appreciated or valuable in the ballet world. And I've grown to understand that I just need to be myself. And that's a powerful thing to realize, that everybody has something unique and interesting to offer. It just gets clouded by our own fear of not being enough, or not being important enough, or big enough, or good enough, or whatever your story is. It's all just a delusion. And if you can move past that feeling of unworthiness, your authenticity just bursts into the scene, and there's really nothing that can get in your way. And I wish I had known that from the beginning, because I spent so much time, working on my technique to try to be perfect, and working on my technique to try to impress and have people say, oh, wow, she's great, and I wanted to hear that affirmation, like, yeah, I'm good, amazing. But the reality, the thing is that that's not what makes great dancers. That's not what makes great artists. That's not what makes you valuable in our world, you know, in the world and in the art scene. I think what makes you valuable is your ability to express whatever it is you're trying to say. And everybody has something to say. Now, it doesn't mean that your technique's not important. I just think that we have to reimagine technique not being something that we perfect for the sake of itself. We have to remember the bigger goal of technique, which is we work on it and work on it and work on it so that the car will run, you know, and so that you will have this freedom to express yourself in the most authentic and effortless way. That your technique is not something that holds you back from expression. It's a tool to do so. And I feel like I used to get caught up in my technique in and of itself, that was the goal, was like flawless movement with a smile, you know. But the thing is that I've grown to understand that, you know, I've like fallen on stage and I've had, you know, the craziest things have happened, but it never took away from the performance. And I've had other performances where I was so focused on my technique that you could say, wow, she didn't make a single mistake, but it was so ineffective because it was so inauthentic and it didn't inspire anybody. So I really hope that as a teacher, I can just pass on what my mentors have guided me to understand, which is you have to like dig through yourself and find what it is and know your why are you doing this, because if you can understand why you're doing it, you'll know where you want to go. And if you don't know why you're doing this, it's going to be hard to know the direction you need to take. So when I mentor a student, I feel more obligated to empower them to discover their own potential rather than tell them what to do. Because you know, a tendu is a tendu, but how you tendu and how you tendu, totally different. And they should be.
What are there any specific areas that you think are important when you are teaching? Like, do you like technique over artistry or strength over flexibility, or do you try to incorporate all of those things into your, I mean, where do you stand on that?
So for me, I really, I focus on a balance. I focus on the balance between, and this is what I do with myself. So I like that technique is artistry and artistry is technique. They don't have to be separate. You know, so the way that I step into a preparation should say something. So you have to, like, I feel like as you get higher up in your career and as you grow, you start meshing concepts so that it's not just a perfectly executed pirouette. It's a perfectly executed pirouette that says something that relates to what you're trying to say. And then when it comes to strength and flexibility, it's a balance. So you have to have equal strength with equal flexibility. So if a student comes to me and she's supernaturally flexible, I'm going to work on her strength. But if there's another student who comes that's really strong but not so flexible, I'm probably going to look at, well, let's check her alignment first, because it might just be bones that are getting in the way if she's, you know, crooked or something. But if she's perfectly aligned, now we just work on a little bit more flexibility. So let's talk about stretches, right? So I think I definitely focus, I use the Vaganova technique because that's what I know. That's what I was raised on, born into. I can't get it out of me. And I feel like it's a very strengthening, but also artistic, the use of all the port de bras. That's another big thing that I focus on, is the use of not just the arms with the legs, but the head with the arms. Because I feel like, if I walked onto the stage and I just prepared my hands, but I didn't do anything special with my head, or my shoulders, we're missing a lot of presentation. So when I work with students, even in simple combinations at the bar, I incorporate a lot of arms. The legs might be more simple so that they're proper, but the arms are really working a lot, and very specifically. So it's I try to pass on what has been given to me, and it's individual, and that's the beauty of my senseis, that is individual. That I'm not trying to give the right thing for 25 kids. I can just decide what this person in front of me needs and give them that. And so far, I think I've had 3 or 4 students on the platform, and every lesson was different. There was some lessons where that person wanted a full ballet class, and we did that, and it was difficult and challenging, and we broke down combinations. And it's also cool because when they're doing the exercise that I give, I can really look in the screen and give them corrections that might help them execute it more easily or more properly. Meanwhile, another student comes and they only want to focus on their extensions, so we spend the time honing in on how can we make this better. And the interesting thing is, it's making me more aware of my own dancing. It's such, it's not like I'm giving all of this to them and getting nothing in return. One, I get so much pride seeing something work. Like, I see it click, and they just like have this moment. My Lisa used to call it the aha moment, where it was like, oh, okay, now I got it. And I love seeing that. It's so rewarding. And the big smile, like, oh my God, I did it. Yeah, you did, and it was great. And that's an amazing feeling. But 2, I'm now challenged to analyze and then decide how it is what words do I need to use to get them to get what I need them to do, right? So it's not just like pull up, because that might not work for somebody. But if I tell them, imagine your stomach is pinned to your spine, now they're pulled up because they got it. They got this image. That it's an imagination that you have to keep, and be creative. And it's not the same for every student. Every student needs something special and different. So I'm just happy to be a part of their progress and their journey.
With this quarantine that we're all living through right now, what do you miss most about not being in the studio or being with other dancers?
I miss the energy. I miss the busyness, of like going from rehearsal to rehearsal. And I love that kind of like, not stressful day, but like a busy day, like where you finish the day and you're pretty exhausted. But honestly, aside from that, what I miss most is diving into characters full on. I miss the rehearsals of whatever production we're about to do, and the most of all, I miss the stage.
Do you really?
I miss the stage more than anything in the world right now. Because that's it for me. Like, people always joke that Nutcracker is like the hardest time of year because it's like 40 shows. I love it. That's my favorite time of the year because I love being on stage and performing and making people happy and having that, like, how can I even improve on stage, like from show to show? What do I need to add to my performance to make it just a little bit better the next time? And I miss that kind of process and lifestyle of performing and expressing and, you know, things not going perfectly all the time, but it's a pursuit type mindset, I guess, you know, and that's what I miss the most, is that connection of dancing for people.
Sure.
You know, and not just dancing for myself every day, which is nice, but I miss the dancing to share it with people in a live setting. But it will be back, you know, and I'm hopeful for that, because I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, you know. The amount of time it takes, that's fine. But I did tell my students, I'm like, do not look at this as a pause. This is not a pause. Don't waste this time. You have all this time, you have all these resources. Do not pause. Do not sit down. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Just go forward, you know. Don't look side to side. Don't get stuck on Instagram. Just do the work and everything will work out itself. But you have to know your intention, because intention is the loudest thing in the world. You know, you can have all the talent or all the will, but if you don't have intention, your why, your who am I doing this for, then it's going to be very hard to be audience-less. Because while I miss the audience, I also know I don't need them to be motivated. And just because I can't see them right now doesn't mean they're not there, waiting, excited, just as I am, you know. So knowing people haven't stopped supporting the arts, they might be invisible right now. I'm not on stage. I can't see them. I can't bow to them and say thank you. But I know that they're there, and I just want to be ready for when it's time to thank them again, and that's it. And I'll be ready, because I refuse to pause.
Is that your motto? I refuse to pause.
Yeah, I will not hit pause right now. Absolutely not. There are days where I feel like I might want to, but I think about how much I love my art form very purely, and how much I miss the stage and the lights and the costumes and diving into those, you know, 2-hour ballets. So no, I won't waste the time right now. You know, I'm going to keep making as much progress as I can and helping others to do the same and being present for them. Because I feel like our art might change, you know, it might become more virtual or, you know, visual, but we're still going to be dancers. We're still going to have dancers. So we have to be dancers. So we have to act like them and be really strong. Yeah. And it's important that we keep our minds focused on what we can still become and what's ahead, and not get lost in pausing or waiting for the storm to pass kind of a thing. Because it might take a while. And that's okay too. But we have to just like cultivate patience and resilience and hope, and not just think about being hopeful, but be hopeful, you know, show that you do have hope by holding the bar every day. You know, you can read all the memes in the world, but if you don't practice them, they're not gonna like just be absorbed into your life.
Sure. Well, my last question for you is, you have had a strong career and you've been in a lot of different ballets. What have been your favorite roles? I know you have one that you love.
I love Aurora. I mean, she's my favorite. Yeah, I love Sleeping Beauty, and it's such an old, stylish ballet. It's amazing. I love Giselle. I think my dream, like if I'm looking forward, during this quarantine, I've kind of been like obsessed with Juliet. In Macmillan's Romeo and Juliet. Juliet was actually the first full-length ballet I ever danced. When I was 18, when I got to Manila. It was my first ever role. So I feel like there's this kind of like, I want to step into her as I am now, you know, with, I think it would be so different to kind of revisit that character. Every character, you know, or piece, or every time I step on stage, there's something memorable and special about that particular moment and movement. So I'm just looking for whoever will show up first, I guess, to the party. It will be who I will absolutely dive into with so much joy. But yeah, I think Aurora is like my spirit animal, I guess, of ballet, if I had to choose one.
Mm.
I feel like we're the most alike in a lot of ways.
That's interesting. Interesting to know. I hope you don't sleep for 100 years.
Well, you know, maybe she was dreaming. We don't know if she was just asleep, right?
That's true. Well, she was supposedly.
Maybe right now that's what I'm doing. I'm just dreaming.
Thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you, Barbara. It's so good to see you.
It's good to see you too. And, you know, keep doing your classes every day. And I see that you're going to be teaching on Friday.
Yeah, Worldwide Ballet.
Yeah, well, I'm going to do my best to tune in.
Yay, that would be great.
It should be interesting.
Awesome.
I think it'll be fun. All right, well, thank you. Stay well. Take care.
Thank you, Barbara. Have a great evening. Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.